Alright, people. Review of the week time. Now, before I do anything, if this sounds a little bit, because it might sound perfect, I've been fiddling around with this for a while. It might sound perfect, it might be a little bit of an echo in the background, there might be. Ordered a new mic today, hopefully should be here this week, because this one's on its last legs. Just saying, if it does sound a little bit dodgy, it'll end in the next few days. Wait, you see, this will come out perfect the one time I try it. But we're not talking about that's boring stuff. That's miscellaneous stuff. We got to talk boxing. So, obviously, the weekend we had two major cards that we got to talk about. The main talking point about everything is obviously Leigh versus Josh Warrington. We'll talk very briefly about the undercard. I seen Hobie Price fight a guy called Conor Coghill. This was a very, very good fight. The undercard itself was really, really good. There was some really fun, entertaining fights on here. And this Hobie Price Conor Coghill fight was one of them. It was a fight that, to be honest with you, early on, I was thinking Hobie Price may end up getting stopped in this fight because he was rocked a couple of times in this fight by Conor Coghill. He was stunned with the left hand. It was a southpaw against southpaw. Now, they normally don't make for the best fights. Normally, they don't, because neither southpaw is used to fighting another southpaw. They're normally used to fighting the orthodox. It can be a bit... It can just... They cannot blend. They cannot gel together sometimes. This went very well. Now, as I said early on, Conor Coghill was doing very well. He was landing a straight right hand or straight left hand. But it was about the sixth round, which was a round that Coghill wasn't doing too bad in. He ended up getting dropped, and Hobie Price was able to come back, get through the rounds. He was dominating from pretty much from then on in. Dropped him in the 11th and then finished him off in the 12th. Good performance by Hobie Price. Worrying signs early on, but the fact of the matter is he was able to adjust as the fight went on. He was able to adjust to what his opponent was doing. That's the sign of someone who has a good ring IQ, because when you see fighters and they're prospects, they've had it all their own way, they get a bit of a step up and a guy is doing something in there that they're not used to doing. If they're not able to adjust, there's signs there. I'll give you an example. Before Nathan Gorman fought Daniel Dubois, I think he was fighting Razvan Kajanu. I think that was the fight. Now, you may remember Nathan Gorman, before he fought Daniel Dubois, there was a lot of people picking him, and there was a lot of people hyped about him. I know it's easy to look back and say there was a lot of people, but I think it was the Kajanu fight. He kept getting hit with a right hand. Now, he won the fight handily, but he kept getting hit with a right hand, and he never adjusted once to it. And I remember seeing that thinking, if you're not adjusting to that, what are you going to do against someone like a Daniel Dubois or someone better than that if you're struggling to adjust to a very, very fringe level fighter? Now, Hobie Price was in there with a decent fighter in Conor Coghill, nothing special, but decent. He was able to adjust, and he was able to then set up his foot on the gas and take him out of there. So a good fight for Hobie Price. Very good matchmaking. We'll keep an eye on him, see how he goes. Kieran Conway, Linus Udofia ended in the 6th round. No issue with the stoppage. Linus Udofia's right eye, I believe it was absolutely swollen shut. There was no way he was ever going to be able to carry on with that. It is a good statement from Kieran Conway, and I say that because Denzel Bentley is the only loss, apart from Kieran Conway now, on Linus Udofia's record. That was in a really close nip and tuck split decision fight. Really, really, really close fight. Kieran Conway was in control in this fight. In complete control. The one thing I will say is that Kieran Conway is coming up from 154. Udofia is a career middleweight. But the size difference in there was insane. I mean, Kieran Conway, God knows how he even made 154, much less middleweight. Because this guy is flipping massive in there. Like, he is absolutely huge on fight. Now, I don't know what the hell he's doing to make those weights, because he is massive in there. But a very good performance nonetheless. And this is probably the best I've seen him, to be honest with you. He looked really, really good last night. And then obviously we get to the main event, Josh Warrington versus Leigh Wood. Now, the main point of contention on this fight was the referee's stoppage. Was it premature? Was it right on the button? Was it good? Was it bad? Etc, etc. Now, when you do a post-fight review, sometimes you're in the moment. Especially when last night, obviously, I did a watch-along for this. That right there kind of made me look and think, should the referee have stopped it? Maybe. When you watch it the next day, you realise, actually no, that stoppage was definitely premature. And I say why. When I was watching that, doing a live watch along, I don't have the commentary on because I'm doing the commentary. So I'm not listening to what's going on in the arena. I'm not listening to anything. Now, I didn't know, watching it, that the bell had already rang. The final bell had already rang, so the round was over again. Josh Warrington got up. There's a very good chance, because people will say, well, Josh Warrington turned his back to the referee. Josh Warrington, I would imagine, would have heard that bell. There's a very good chance that Josh Warrington obviously just assumed, okay, look, referee's going to let it go on. I'm getting my minute's rest. I think the referee made a massive mistake not letting the fight carry on. You could say Josh Warrington was out on his feet. At the end of the day, he's got a 60-second rest to recover. They'll throw some water on his head. They'll try and revive him. Different if that had happened with, say, a minute 30 to go and he turned his back to the referee. I'd probably say, yeah, the signs weren't there. But the round is ended. It's over. The bell is gone. He's not out cold. It's not like there's any risk of him, even with a couple of seconds to go, getting hit with a massive shot or anything like that. I think the referee made a big mistake there. I think you should have let Josh Warrington carry on. And I genuinely think that maybe the reason why Josh Warrington turned his back is he thought, okay, the round's over. I'm just going to get the stool's going to come out. I'm going to sit down on it. And the referee wasn't even going to maybe administer the count, but just kind of say, yeah, go on, do what you want. I can see why Josh Warrington was so upset with it, definitely. Because at the time when I was watching it, I was thinking, oh, the bell's going to go any second. But I couldn't hear it. I had no sound. When I listened to it back the next day, it's like, oh, the bell already went when he hit the... I was like, oh, no, that's different. The round's over. Give him that minute's grace. It's a minute. And it's not like, I'll give you an example, right? When Kid Galahad got knocked out by Kiko Martinez, the way his eyes were just in a daze, he looked in another dimension. Even when and bear in mind, the referee let him carry on. I forget who the referee was in that fight, but he let Kid Galahad carry on when it was clear he was out of it when he got back to his feet against Kiko Martinez. But the round had already ended, so the referee let it continue. When you see him in the corner with Dominic Ingle, the man is out of it. He's in another universe. The corner really should have stopped that fight. He had no idea where he was. Josh Warrington did. Josh Warrington was aware of what was going on even when the fight was stopped. So I think with that in mind, you should have let him carry on. You really should have let him carry on. The people saying, oh, it was the correct... No, I don't think it was. I disagree with that. I think that, premature is definitely right. Should have let him carry on. They should have at least given him that minute. If started the round... Because bear in mind, with Kid Galahad, he was so out of it that the minute the round started, the first punch Kiko landed, he was done. That was apparent. Look at the eyes. His eyes were in another world. He was out of it. Josh Warrington didn't seem out of it at all. We seem cognizant. And I think that is the crucial thing. When a fighter gets to his feet, even if the round is over, if you look at him and you can really tell the lights are on but there's no one home, yeah, you got to look at it. Because what's the point? He's just going to go down the minute a slight breeze hits him. But when a fighter is hurt but cognizant, he knows where he is, he's got his faculties somewhat with him, you got to give him the benefit of the doubt. And I think that's what Michael Alexander should have done in that fight. In terms of the fight itself, great fight. Would love to see it again at 130 pounds. Leigh Wood is apparently going to move up. I would imagine Josh Warrington, if he carries on, is going to follow suit. There you go, 130 pounds. Fresh start for both of the guys. Would that make a difference? Some would say it would make a difference to Josh Warrington. Well, I'd say it would make a difference, to Leigh Wood as well. He's been doing 126 for years and years and years now. So 126 or 130, both those guys, I'm all for it. I'd love to see a rematch. This was a very, very good card. And Leigh Wood obviously has earned the right to have it at home. It was a case of, if there was going to be a rematch, the winner should have it in their hometown. Nottingham Forest City Grounds, Leigh Wood, why not? So, great card, really happy with it. Again, we go to America, and the card over there, which was headlined by Joe Smith Jr. versus Zurdo Ramirez. Now, this was an interesting one to me, right? So, when I looked at this fight and previewed it midweek, it was scheduled for 12 rounds. Alright, now, it was a 10-rounder. Alright, and the judges had a very wide to Zurdo. Rightful man won, no disputing it, but Joe Smith won a couple of rounds in there. 99-91 on all three scorecards. I don't really agree with that. Right. Both guys weighed in at 191. I would assume that was agreed beforehand. It is in the cruiserweight limit, well within, it's 9 pounds under it. I have to say with Zurdo, how in God's name this guy ever made 168 or 175, especially 168, is beyond me. This guy is flipping massive in there. Like, even then, Joe Smith Jr. has always been a big light heavyweight. right? And Zerto, who came up from 168, was still the bigger man in there. All 160. He is massive. I remember Zerto fought Jesse Hart in 2018. I know he fought him twice, but it was the most recent time he fought him. The last time, 2018, I think it was. He fought Jesse Hart, and Jesse Hart's a unit at 168 as well. But when I saw both these guys in the ring, you're kind of looking at it, you're thinking, am I actually watching two super middleweights or am I watching two cruiserweights? They look bigger than most light heavyweights in there. And I was like, this is at 168 for God's sake, but you would consider that division to be the most kind of closest to a normal average person. The average person is what, about 180, 160 if you cut them down, 165 thereabouts. These guys look like cruiserweights, they really did, and these two were massive, but Zerto was absolutely huge. And I do wonder if that had been a 12-rounder, because Joe Smith was coming on late. He was rallying late in that fight, so I do wonder what would have happened if it was a 12-rounder. I didn't see Beck the Bully versus Atlantis Fox. Had no real interest in it because Fox was never that good, even at 160. Up there at 168 against Beck the Bully, he was always going to run into trouble. He was stopped in 4 rounds. Bektimir Melikuziev. And just judging by the look of this card, it seems like not all of them, but the majority of the prospects lost. I didn't see any of these fights. There's a guy called Daniel Luna, who was 3-0. He took an L. There was a guy called Eric Tudor, 9-0. He took an L against a guy 13-3. There's a guy called Jay Brown. He was a top-ranked fighter. I know he fought on a couple of top-ranked shows. He got beat by a guy who was 7-2, majority decision. So a lot of the prospects, we'll say. And I know Brown was with Top Rank, as was Joe Smith. Was he? I would imagine. God knows, maybe he's a free agent now. I don't know. But they didn't have a good night for prospects, put it like that. 3 of them got turned over. In terms of everything else, I think that's pretty much it with regards the fights. But I do want to touch on a card that was announced on the show last night, which is going to happen on December the 2nd. It's going to go in. This is the one thing I'm a bit upset about, is that this card, as good as it is going to coincide with the Hamza Shearer Liam Williams fight on December the 2nd in the Copper Box, which was announced last week. Which that in itself is a very, very good fight. Liam Williams is it's going to be interesting to see where he's at. And Hamza Shearer is, very excited about him. He's looking very good. But Eddie Hearn announced that he'll be working with Michael Conlan. It's going to be a co-promotional deal. Basically, they're going to be working together. So Michael Conlan has his promotional outfit, which is Conlan Boxing. He's going to be working now alongside Eddie Hearn and Matchroom. He announced on Friday that he's officially parted ways from Top Rank. To be honest with you, he should have done it sooner. Michael Conlan, when he turned over, I remember when they broke the news he was signing with Top Rank. I just remember thinking, why? Like, I understand kind of Bob Arum, Top Rank America, but like, Conlan will never be at the forefront of their thoughts, right? Conlan is going to be looking at the Irish contingents. He's going to be looking at Belfast and Dublin and places like that. He's going to be looking at Europe, basically. He obviously was... at the time when he's turned over, he was trained by Manny Robles, then he went to Adam Boot. So he was basing himself primarily in the UK anyway. And I was thinking, Eddie Hearn will just put the Belfast shows on. He promoted Ryan Burnett. He's promoting Katie Taylor. What is Top Rank really going to do for you when they're looking for guys, when they're looking at guys like Shakur Stephens, Manuel Navarrete was on the rise? What are they actually going to do for Michael Conlan? They're not going to do anything. And they didn't do anything, truth be told. They gave him that St. Patrick's Day run out a couple of years in a row at MSG. Whoa, wow, brilliant. Fighting unknown. Wow, But in terms of actually getting them anything of note, really getting his profile out, they didn't do anything. He done more for that himself. Whereas I always felt if he turned over with Eddie Hearn or Frank Warren, to be honest with you, because Jamie, his brother, was with Frank Warren, a UK based promoter, he would have had, the market is there for him. He would have been a big star. And maybe, they could have just branched out to the States then later. But he decided to go with Top Rank, never understood it. And obviously Bob Arum, as we saw, was never going to put him at the forefront. Now he's working alongside Eddie Hearn with his own promotional company. Remember, he's not fought in the States since 2019. I remember that. He's not fought there since he fought that guy who he lost to in the Olympics. That was at the undercard of Crawford versus Labanowskis, Mean Machine. So he's not fought since then. So now he's based himself back in the UK. Well, he's already based in the UK working with Eddie Hearn. And on December 2nd, he is going to headline in Belfast. He's going to be fighting Jordan Gill, who himself, you know, Michael Conlan is better than Jordan Gill. He's a lot better. He should win. I do wonder how Conlan's at, because this is his first fight since that devastating loss to Alberto Lopez. But I would say that losing a fight to Lopez, in which you had your moments, is better than being absolutely decimated by Kiko Martinez, who lost his next fight and then retired. So that's not a good look for Jordan Gill. I never really rated Jordan Gill either, to be honest with you. I think he's still with Dave Colwell. I think he is anyway. So Gill against Conlan, I like it. I think it'll probably be a fun scrap, but Conlan should win. Kevin and Jago versus Troy Williamson on the undercard. Damn. You got Lewis Crooker versus Tyrone McKenna as well. And you've got Sean McComb versus Sam Maxwell. That's a good card. That's a really good card. And as well as that, that's just 4. Conlan normally tends to get some of his own fighters out on it as well, and some decent scraps as well. So that's a really, 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 really good card. Really good card. And in Belfast, the atmosphere is tremendous in Belfast. If you've ever gone to a show in Belfast, I have. They are tremendous. Better atmosphere probably than you'll get in Dublin, to be honest with you. You know, the atmosphere in Dublin is a bit meh. It depends who's fighting, but it's meh. But in Belfast, I mean, it is just electric. If you've ever gone to a fight night in Belfast, that's going to be absolutely incredible. Hearn has said it's his first card there. He's not done a show in Belfast since Ryan Burnett, obviously. And Ryan Burnett obviously had to retire prematurely back in 2019. So it's going to be weird seeing Hearn back in Belfast again. But look, I think that card is going to be absolutely brilliant. I look forward to it. I definitely do. I really think that's going to be a brilliant card. So Conlan versus Gill. You know, the main event is probably the weakest of the fights, to be honest with you. Out of when I list them off, I'm thinking McKenna, Crooker could be good. McComb versus Maxwell, that could catch fire. Definitely in Jago versus Kevin and Jago versus Troy Williamson. I mean, that's going to be brilliant. And you probably look and you think, the main event's probably the weakest, to be honest. But tremendous. That is the type of undercard that we need more in the UK, whether it be Queensberry or Eddie Hearn. I'm not even going to mention Ben Shalom, because Ben Shalom is just completely useless. He hasn't a clue what he's doing. You know, for him, a good undercard would be, you know, a prospect versus some guy he found on BoxRec who's 4-0, who's only ever fought in Bulgaria, and oh, shock horror, he can't box. I'm not even going to mention him because the cards are so forgettable. The kid doesn't have a breeze what he's doing. So those two are the guys who are going to put the main cards on. And people say, be a bit harsh on him. Look, he's had 2 years. He's done absolutely zilch. And he's still doing zilch. And I don't think anything's going to change. Yeah, he's got Boazzi versus Dan Aziz. But that's it. That's it. He ain't going to do anything. I would imagine. Hey, I'm there to be proven wrong. You know, he can prove me wrong, but I doubt it. You know, he's had 2 years, give him some growing pains, but he's still not done anything. In terms of other fights that have been announced, it's looking likely Mandalay Bay in Las Vegas. It's been a while since we've seen some fights in the Mandalay Bay. It's been a long time since we've seen fight. Well, I think Andre Ward had a couple of fights in the Mandalay Bay. I think he fought Sullivan Barrera in the Mandalay Bay. I think he did anyway. I think he fought him in the Mandalay Bay. But that's it, really. And I think, didn't Canelo fight Cotto? I could be wrong there. I think that could have been at the MGM. But it's been a while since we've seen fights there. That's gonna hold Dave Benavidez versus Demetrius Andre on the 25th of November. So Benavidez versus Demetrius Andre. I'd make Benavidez firm favourite for that fight. Firm favourite. I think Demetrius Andre, I think his best years are probably behind him. And they were really at 160 and 154. He's going to be a bit undersized at 168, I would imagine. But let's wait and see. Naoya Inoue versus Milan Tapilis for undisputed at 122, I should say, is planned for 26th of December, Boxing Day in Japan. Wow, that's going to be a fun Christmas day. They're going to have to weigh in on Christmas Day. That's crazy. But 26, that's is it a Tuesday actually? What day is Christmas Day on this year? Yeah, it's Tuesday. Okay, so it's a Tuesday. Bank holiday over here. in Ireland and the UK on you call it Boxing Day, we call it St. Stephen's Day, but December 26th, I'll watch it happily. That's reported from Steve Kim. Naoya Inoue, he ain't messing around. He is getting the job done. Very, very, very happy to see Naoya Inoue out in the ring again. The Zone have confirmed that the UK pay-per-view price for the Misfits card this coming weekend will be £19.99. Buyers must also purchase a DAZN subscription. First month is £1. Jesus, if you're buying the pay-per-view. £1 for the first month. What do you get for that £1? You're getting the Monaco card. You're getting the Next Gen card, I think. I think that's it then, isn't it? £1 for the first month. That's going to be interesting. I would still love for DAZN. Look, I'm not going to be. I've not really got an interest in this fight, to be honest with you. So I wouldn't even be doing a watch along. I might talk about it a bit more in midweek report. But I still think that DAZN, for their long-term subscribers, they need to try and work around the pay-per-view model, if you know what I mean. So when they're doing this, they're putting fights on pay-per-view, and they're looking to gain new subscribers and stuff like that. I think they need to take a note out of what Box Nation did. When Box Nation started doing pay-per-views towards the back end, before BT Sport really took over, Box Nation done a couple of shows. I think they were Canal Triple G shows on pay-per-view. But what they did was they said pay-per-view to everyone but our subscribers. They get it as part of their package. I know with DAZN that's probably not the most feasible, but even if it was a case of, right, because if you think about it like this, you're a DAZN subscriber, you're on the package I'm on, which is the £10.99 a month. That's 30 quid for that month you're paying. They should probably just say, right, if you're on the subscription package, the standard one, or if you're on any of the 3 subscription packages, you get it at a greatly reduced rate. If you have to pay for it, you have to pay for it, but you get it at, if it's $19.99 for new subscribers and they get a 1 month for the next month, current subscribers will only have to pay, say, $7.99. I think that is way more feasible and logical than just saying to long-term subscribers, guess what, you're paying 30 quid this month or maybe more. That to me is just not, it's not right, really. If you want to keep your subscribers happy, I would, moving forward, I know I've said this several times, I think that's what DAZN should do. They haven't done it, they obviously aren't watching the videos, but you know what I mean. They should reduce it greatly for the current subscribers. If you're looking to get new ones in and you want to charge them that, go right ahead, knock yourself out. But the current ones, I think there should be something to say, thanks for sticking with us. That's what I think. Now, I seen Tyson Fury, Alexander Usyk, 2-way rematch, okay? Now, I've seen a few people report about this fight, and it's good news, by the way, it's not bad news, that this fight is locked in, the 2-way rematch is there, and apparently the only thing, according to at least the contract that both guys are reported to have signed, the only thing that could stop this fight from actually taking place is if one of the fighters decides to retire. That basically means that if one of them, we know who, maybe gets cold feet, the only way they can get out of it is if they actually say, I'm done, I'm retiring from boxing. That gives me a lot more optimism that this fight, we are actually going to get it. And I really do think we will. I think that the signs have been good. It's a case of waiting on the date. I see Eddie Hearn saying that they are now close to finalising Eubank versus Ben December 23rd. I think the fight could be done within the next week. He's tentatively saying that date. If Fury Usyk announce after Fury and Ngannou in a couple of weeks that their date for the fight is going to be December 23rd, I can imagine Eddie Hearn would be making amendments to that date straight away, because Conor Benn versus Chris Eubank Jr. has not a pinch on Fury Usyk, doesn't even come close, doesn't have a patch on it. And I think, as I've said, the way that this fight, Fury Usyk, has come about, Fury moving the goalpost the way he was doing at the start of the year, all the talking about it, John Fury saying this, Sugar Hill Stewart, saying I was only over here, all of this basically helped build the fight in a way, if you think about it. And I do think that people like me, Hatman, Outmatch, Just Done Boxing, etc., all of us, Ad A, etc., us talking about it has also helped as well. Because at the end of the day, when you hear, like, promoters will say this, that, and the other, and we're straight away making videos saying, hang on a minute. A good example would be when when Adam Cattrall called Frank Warren out on TalkSport over that. Frank Warren, really went in on Jack Cattrall a bit. And, I like Jack Cattrall. I think he's good at what he does. The Fight Disciples is a good channel. But Jack Cattrall's just ability to just, off the top of his head, bring up a think of, responses, if you know what I mean. When Frank Warren says, well, what money does, Frank Sanchez bring? Jack Cattrall Adam Cattrall should have instantly said, well, what money did Tom Shorts bring? You saw that as a world title fight. Plucked him from obscurity. How is he any different from Frank Sanchez? The only difference is Frank Sanchez is a hell of a lot better. He just lacked the knowledge. It's not a knock on him, just to be able to instantly kind of think off his head and say that. But I think all of that and us doing videos on it has helped it. It's obviously more talked about now than it was, given the fact that all that's gone on. And I think in some ways you could argue, in a really kind of depraved way, it's made this fight bigger. The fact that we've had so much, moving of the goalpost, this, that, and the other, that now we're finally talking about it. And it looks like we have it. It looks like we're in a really, really good place now. It looks like it's even bigger now than it otherwise might have been. Now, this is what, in some ways, you don't really want to be hearing, but in other sense, you can kind of think, all right, it does kind of make a bit of sense, to be fair. So, Eddie Hearn has suggested Anthony Joshua could now pursue a fight with Filip Hrgovic, as opposed to going down the road of fighting Deontay Wilder, if it means that he can challenge for the IBF world title. He says this news changed things to go to become 3-time heavyweight champion of the world. This would allow him to do that. The Wilder fight is a much bigger fight than the Hrgovic fight, but the Hrgovic fight comes with a world title that will always take priority. However, Joshua may not actually be in a position to fight for the vacant title, because Otto Wallin, got a win over Morak Asiev a fortnight ago, is now apparently IBF number 2. Apparently, we'll need to see the rankings when they come out. But if that is the case, number 1 fights number 2, it would mean that Otto Wallin would fight for the vacant title against Filip Hrgovic. I meant to say Hrgovic first, and Wallin, so I was thinking, don't say Wallin twice. But that's the situation there. Now, the rankings are there. Number 1 should fight number 2 if it was for an eliminator or if it was for the vacant title. But we know the IBF and the WBO are better. They are, to be fair. They genuinely are, because if this was the WBC, I'd be saying, Otto Wallin, you might be number 2, but they ain't going to let you fight for that vacant title. Doesn't matter what you say or do, they ain't going to let you fight for it. Because the WBC in the past have called final eliminators for one fighter only, believe it or not. And I know that sounds weird, but when Deontay Wilder was fighting Bermane Stiverne for the second time, on the undercard of that fight, there was Eric Molina versus Dominic Breazeale. Dominic Breazeale was number 2 or number 3 in the rankings. And that fight was a final eliminator for Dominic Breazeale only. Yes, make that make sense. It doesn't make sense. Dylan White was number 1 ranked. Instead of doing the bleeding obvious and order Dylan White versus Dominic Breazeale, they just said, right, Dominic Breazeale, you fight Eric Molina. If you win, you're mandatory. If Eric Molina wins, well, nothing. I mean, that's the WBC for you. I couldn't imagine the IBF being that bad and doing that and saying, well, Otto Wallin, yeah, you are number 2. We want 1 and 2 to fight for the vacant title, but yeah, we like Joshua. I think they have enough integrity not to do that. Now, saying that, if Eddie Hearn decides, okay, we want to be number 2, let's fight Otto Wallin, and he legitimately wins and gets number 2, I mean, I don't think anyone would really be complaining. Obviously, when he's saying that it's a bigger fight than the Wilder, he wants that fight over the Wilder fight because it comes with a title. The Wilder fight is a bigger fight, definitely. It's a more fun fight to think about, to be honest with you, because I think it's got fireworks. And at the end of the day, it's been a fight that's been talked about and more or less promised. And I'd be a bit peeved off, and I am a bit peeved off hearing that, let's say goalpost being moved, but it's like Wilder, no Wilder, okay, because the Saudis, fair enough, but you're going to try and make that fight still, make it somewhere else, maybe in the UK or the US, maybe, Hrgovic. No, Wilder. We want Wilder. That's what we want, that's the fight we want. I understand it in a sense if they want to go to world title, but don't keep mentioning Deontay Wilder if it's going to be a case of, alright, he's going to fight Filip Hrgovic. I want Wilder. We all want Deontay Wilder. That's the fight we want for Joshua. If you're going to go and if you want to turn around and say, look, Joshua's not ready for Deontay Wilder or something like that, or whatever, he needs an interim fight, again, still, why would you keep saying it? The Dylan White fight that never happened, obviously, he fought Hellenius. It was just, get this, Wilder. And now it's Hrgovic. I don't know. I don't know. Let's see. What else do we have here? What else do we have to talk about? It's mainly Leigh Wood, Josh Warrington stuff. I am seeing here that Bomac, he's got a plea hearing over the issues he ran into last month. That's set for tomorrow afternoon in Manchester Crown Court. He's been in a spot of bother for the last 5 weeks after he was found with something that he shouldn't have, for obviously the algorithms. I'm not going to go into details, in his suitcase when flying home. Yeah, and believe me, they take that stuff real serious in the UK. Really serious. So I'm not optimistic Bomac is going to be... I'm not optimistic he's going to get a slap on the wrist and see you later. He could be in a spot of bother with that. How he got it into the country in the first place, though, that's what I don't get. They are stringent, coming into it. Well, if you're coming from Ireland, they're not stringent because obviously it's a common travel area. You just walk straight through. But if you're coming from any other country, I would imagine that it's pretty stringent. I would imagine it is. But, yeah. It's interesting to see what's going to happen to Bomac. We'll keep an eye out tomorrow, keep our eyes peeled. But, they are really strict about that kind of stuff in the UK. Really. I think it was after the Dunblane incident in the 90s. I think that was in 96 is when the UK really got strict on what Bomac was found with. Like, really strict on that. I don't even think they're as strict in Ireland as they are in the UK. Really strict in there. Really strict in there. So, that's pretty much it. I think we are good to go. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Hopefully, come the middle of the week, I'll have a nice, squeaky clean new mic. It'll sound a lot better. To come with the better camera we have. So we'll have the full 9 yards. Better camera, better mic, better everything. We need to work on the setup when we move, but that's next year's problem. So I hope you enjoyed it. Lads, lassies, smash the like button. We went over 13,300 this weekend, so let's try and get 13,400 by the end of this week. We're pushing for 15k, lads, by the end of the year. We're not a million miles off, right? We're not a million miles off. We're less than 1,700 subs away from 15k. Should be a doddle by the end of the year. Should be. Let's see. For now, I'll leave it with that. I hope you all have a great week. Smash the like button. As I always say on review of the week, it's the end of the week. Hope you all have a great week. Hope the phone rings with some good news for somebody. But for now, I will leave you with that. I'll talk to you. Peace.